Armstrong surrounded by his teammates, but almost immediately here's an attack.
Two riders going clear here. The peloton are closing in all the time now. Final lead out. McEwen's in a great position. Comes in on the inside of the crowd barrier here. Being challenged by Andre Greipel, the winner of stage one a year ago. And I think this time Andre Greipel will get his revenge. He takes the line. It's stage two of the Tour Down Under. Next on Versus. The Tour Down Under continues on second stage between Hahndorf and Stirling, 145 kilometres. Another hot day is forecast, but at the moment the weather is beautiful and hardly any wind. Wasn't the case yesterday. It was a hot finish as they raced into Mawson Lakes. Andre Greipel taking out the win, while Robin McEwen, watch on the right here, clips the crowd and has a nasty cut on his right elbow. You see him on the left there, just checking it out. So Greipel is the first leader of the Tour Down Under as the crowd now wait in anticipation for this second stage. Would you like to come over to our place for dinner, Lance? Well, you can't refuse an offer like that in this lovely German enclave. Lance Armstrong here, riding his comeback tour since the Tour de France in 2005. This is Cameron Meyer, the young man now making his way as a professional in his first year with the Garmin Slipstream team. The arrival is Jude O'Grady, off to a good start yesterday with a top three finish. He's won this race twice before. George Hincapie, once a teammate of Lance Armstrong, now a rival. He's also located the two red kangaroos. So it's pictures all round. This is also Michael Rogers enjoying a great day. And the one man everybody was waiting for to see if he were to turn up, of course, Robin McEwen. This was earlier on that stage, almost taken out by one of the youngest riders in the race, 19-year-old Jack Bobridge from South Australia. He was working extremely hard yesterday, but he got caught before the end. Here he is signing in. McEwen, though, was he here?
Robbie, after a great start with the win in the Cancer Council event, really very much bad luck in the finish yesterday.
Yeah, it shows you in sport it can go from good to bad pretty quickly, and it was a shame because I was really going for the stage win. I was just about to really make my big run to the line as Greipel was going to try and come past, and from the moment I hit the camera, it was really all over. I sort of kept trying a little bit, but no, it was all done. And I'll just try and get through today's stage, see how it all feels, and see how my arm copes with riding the bike. And hopefully I'll get a better day today, and I can try for another stage win later in the week.
Yesterday, for example, we could kind of get away with controlling the race and cruising into the finish, whereas today, when it's a circuit race, there's nowhere to hide, and we really have to follow the attacks, and it's the last 70k that we hit the circuit. So, today's going to be like one of those little World Cup races or a little World Championship in the final, where a lot of the teams are going to be on the offence, and if you haven't got the legs to be up the front, there's nowhere to hide. So, it's going to be a much different race to yesterday.
Your man Andre Greipel is the leader of the race overall, but for a sprinter, it's going to be pretty tough to hold on, I think, today.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. I mean, he's riding awesome this year so far, and we hope that he can hold on. But if not, we have a couple other guys that hopefully will take up the reins. But it's gonna be a tough day for sure.
And what about George Hincapie? Because I know you can climb and you can sprint.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I'm at right now. I know that I had a great winter training. I feel good. We'll see. I mean, I want to start off as not kill myself too much in the beginning of the season. But if I feel good today, or the day to the willing, I definitely try for a stage win.
Day two and the longest stage so far. It takes the riders deep into the heart of the Adelaide Hills. 320-kilometre circuits once they get down to Stirling after their start from Hahndorf. And it is a mountainous circuit as well. It could decide a clear leader, Paul. As always, but not so much, we have only 1 kilometre neutralised riding.
Phil, I've just looked at the race profile. I've got to say this is the toughest race of the stage of the race so far as well. I think you'd have to put this up alongside the race over Old Wollonga Hill. There's the race leader in the ochre jersey, the man who dominated this race last year, Andre Greipel.
And there's Mike Turter, the 1984 Olympian, incidentally voted South Australia Australian of the Year for 2008. He really has done the sport proud, pulling in the red flag. As the peloton creep closer to the finish, we'll take a break and come back with more action from stage 2 of the Tour Down Under. Welcome back to the 11th edition of the Tour Down Under, and today's stage is 145 kilometres. It takes the riders from Hahndorf to Stirling. Well, this is so typical of a major stage race. They're trying to get a little bit of an order, and there's a lot of attacks going to come in the early sections of the race just to see if they can get away from that big field.
Bernard Eisel is the man for Team Columbia High Road who's got into this move. He's obviously the man for Team Columbia who's been ordered to go out as the policeman on today's race and cover any of the breakaway moves. But you can see there's a large group starting to splinter across from the front end of the main field. If they keep this kind of tempo up, this is going to be a very hard day.
Well, the pressure's on at the front, but the pressure is also on at the back here because the main field is scrabbling across. They're looking for an early move, and if they can get a smaller group clear, it might work, but this is getting a bit ungainly. Too many riders at the front here.
Well, the man in yellow there for Team Columbia High Road, he's not going to do any work at all here. He defends the lead of the overall leader, and that's Andre Greipel, his own teammate who won yesterday's first stage. Looking down there, there's a group of about 15 riders, Phil, and you can see still the main field is scrambling across. They don't want a large group of riders, 10 or 15 riders, to get clear on a course like this, because if they did form a large breakaway group at the start, you wouldn't see them again.
Well, virtually all still together, locked on time after yesterday's stage, taken out in a bunch sprint by Andre Greipel, or Greipel as they call him, from Germany, racing in towards Balhanna now. But it's on the way back when they'll have covered 55 kilometres where there will be a time bonus sprint here. Nothing on the way out as we're heading on a big circuit which will circumnavigate the hills and bring us back through into the start town of Hahndorf. A little group establishing. That was Oren Kemps getting on there. And I can also see the Cofidis rider on is Guillaume Blot, and Markel Irzar is the rider in the other orange jersey at the back at the moment. There they are, there's the names for you.
Just looking back down the road there, it looks as if the main field had shut off, and that's not surprising after the very rapid start. All of these riders know what's in store, and I think, Phil, they're probably a little bit concerned about those 3 20-lap circuits, 20-kilometre circuits down towards the end of the day, because it will be infernal, the race around there.
Yeah, and I think they've got 3 riders away now, not riders they're expecting to dominate this race, so it takes a little bit of the pressure off the team helpers as they allow these 3 riders to run. It'll be interesting to see how far they allow them to get ahead. They've got about a minute and a half at the moment, and as you can see, the peloton is calm. No anger in that bunch. They're all riding along, enjoying the sun here.
That's the interesting thing about a professional bike race. These guys know just exactly how much time they can afford to leave to a breakaway and how much time they can reel in over the last 30 or 40 kilometres. There's the man who was injured in that rather dramatic crash yesterday, Robbie McEwen. You can see his right forearm is bandaged up. He really didn't know, Phil, how he was going to get to the start line. He's on the start line, so fingers crossed Robbie McEwen will get through today's stage.
Yes, important day to recover today for Robbie, I think. 3 minutes is the split now, and this has happened in a couple of kilometres. They've just not chased them. As you can see, Oren Kemps on the left here working very, very hard indeed, and no short time coming either from Guillaume Blot from Cofidis or the Euskaltel Euskadi rider sat there at the back. Having a good tour so far, which is surprising both you and me, Paul, because we don't expect these young Spaniards to excel at this time of the year.
Certainly not, but I think the team they've brought here is a team that they want to build up for the future.
Well, they're racing around the Adelaide hills today, and of course this produces some of the world's most famous wines, because there are 33 wineries, believe it or not, in this region, but the reason the grape does so well is they have a cool climate and they have a very hot summer. The result, some of the finest Sauvignon Blanc there is. Back to the race, 3 leaders still clear.
Yes, I think what these guys are concerned, Phil, is not about the Sauvignon Blanc, but it's about the first sprint out on the course, which comes into at about 17 kilometres covered, and that's as they head into Charleston.
Well, that's where we're headed to now. And small time bonus sprints, don't forget, after the 6 days of racing, it's the rider with the lowest time who wins the tour. And if you win these bonus seconds along the way, those time bonuses come off your time for the race, and they might prove crucial by the end of 6 days. So these boys are going to go for this at 16.7 kilometres, a long straight, a sprinter's delight. None of these three riders, with the exception of Aaron Kemps, are known sprinters. So watch out for Kemps as he kicks here on the right as the Aussie moves clear, and he's going to make it look quite easy, but he gets the sprint, and Blow is second and Irizar is third. And maybe we can just have another look at that again.
Yeah, well, that'll give him a 3-second time bonus, but what he's more concerned about, I think, is building up the advantage. And look at the power of Kemps here. He's all over his machine as he looks over to the right-hand side of the road here, Phil, where it's completely open. He's got the gas.
All right, and the bunch of time at 3 minutes. Well, you can see the ochre jersey still there. It's time to take on Fu for Andre Greipel there. The three riders up front, though. They've been up to over 5 minutes, but it's come down a little bit just now, so I don't expect to see it rise much more.
Well, it's pegged currently at 4.5 minutes, but I think the fact that Andre Greipel, Phil, is sitting at the front end of the main field is an indication that this man wants to hold on to his ochre jersey, although I have to say, I do really think that the finishing circuits around Stirling might be just a little bit too difficult for him.
Well, here they are, and it's all uphill for the moment at least. They made the descent, and now they've turned a sharp left. They're climbing Fox Creek here. Surprisingly long and steady slog this, and that has now become the daily sight for us, is to see so many people here watching the race. The
rider in the orange jersey there, Euskaltel Euskadi, I would expect him to be the man, Phil, to get the maximum points over the top. The front end of the main field controlled here once again by Bernard Eisel. He's the man, I think, who's been doing all of the pacemaking for Team Columbia High Road, and that's to make sure that the breakaway doesn't get too far in front of the race.
Yes, for my money these last 2 days, it has been Team Columbia High Road, Paul, who seem to be the team looking to win this race. They're paying a lot of attention. They got the man home yesterday. Is he the one to take it out like he did last year? I'm not sure, but they are trying to keep the race together. Here's the race up towards the summit, and just like it was yesterday, Euskaltel Euskadi rider is leading out. Is he going to be challenged? I'm not so sure they'll bother. Markel Irizar, he's really getting points for himself, but he's also happily taking the major King of the Mountain points in favour of La Fuente, his teammate, who leads in this competition after his rides yesterday.
Looks like a very strong young rider. This is a team we see all over the world. Look at the way he's just danced across that line there to get himself those maximum points. Euskaltel Euskadi is a team that we see all throughout the year in the big stage races all over the world.
800 metres for the peloton on the same part of the climb, so they're not that far behind, but of course they are climbing while the other boys are now speeding down at around 80 kilometres an hour. And again, no big pedal being turned in anger. I would watch out though for Adoni Lafuerte. He's in the leader's jersey here in the Skoda King of the Mountains. There's a problem. We've gone back to the leaders because this is Aaron Kemps. He's got a problem with his chain.
It looks like his derailleur, in fact, it's spun back and he can't get himself back and going. And there's the neutral service vehicle. The neutral service vehicle looks after every one of these bike riders if their own team car is not around. And it certainly is a problem with the rear derailleur, the gear mechanism at the back end of the bike. It looks like he's got it sorted and he's off and riding again.
It's amazing how it happens on race day and never in training, doesn't it? Well, he's got back on his bike. Now they need him. It's no good trying to ride away. I suspect the two leaders will wait for him, but we'll go back to the sprint. And not surprisingly, a good lead out by Euskaltel Euskadi for Adoni Lafuente. And the leader in the Skoda King of the Mountains will just get a couple of points here, and that should keep him in the overall lead.
So there's another little move coming off the front end of the main field here as well, and now it's Garmin have decided to launch the attack. It looks like the shape here of Julian Dean trying to go off the front end of the main field. Now that's a bit of a surprise, Phil, because he normally is a man reputed as being a great sprinter.
Well, Julian has got himself very fit for the time of the year because he was racing his national championships not very long ago, but unfortunately he lost his title, and so now he's out for revenge. This is the feeding station, which is right up on the finishing line as the riders head out to complete 3 20-kilometre circuits based here in Stirling.
It's a very difficult circuit as well. In fact, once they've gone through the feeding station, the race continues to climb up for another 1.5 kilometres. Looking down at the main pack now, there's number 1, Andre Greipel. I wonder what he's thinking about the difficult finishing circuit around here this afternoon, but at the moment, he's still comfortably holding on to his overall lead.
It's almost a cat and mouse tactics right now, because we've seen how easily they've let Julian Dean go, and he's making very good progress up to these three riders. Their lead was about 3.5 minutes when he attacked, and we're getting on the race radio. He is closing fast. Well, that is remarkable, Paul. That is a tremendous chase by Julian. He's been a pro since 1996. He's won 32 bike races, but this is a superhuman effort.
He is a tough character, and as you say, he has actually spent most of his winter months in New Zealand, so he'll be on the top of his form, looking for a very good start to the season. Now, I would advise those three riders, looking over your shoulders and seeing Julian Dean coming across with this power, the best thing to do is to sit up and wait for him.
Well, good for Julian Dean here. He's 34 years of age, Julian, as he comes onto the back of these three leaders. There's the four names for you now. 2.5 circuits to go, about 50 kilometres to the finish. There's just a chance here. Will the breakaway be caught? Stay tuned and find out. Well, there's the peloton now behind those four leaders and the feeding station on top of the hill, with riders taking a little bit of a risk going round the back.
It's always a very dangerous part of any race route, and the riders know that, and they're always attentive for something that might happen.
And there's been a crash actually coming off the roundabout. There's a Rabobank rider down. I think the rider sat in the road. It looks rather like it's a Garmin Slipstream rider, which could well be Cameron Meyer. And he's hurt his shoulder here. Now that is rather sad. He's the young blood on the team there, 21 years of age. We've moved forward though from the accident scene. These are the four riders out front. The field are closing in, and there's still time to pick them up.
Well, in fact, they've closed in pretty rapidly. I tell you what, there were 3 minutes at one stage, then 2 minutes, and now I would say, Phil, it's not very much more than about 30 seconds. Number 11 there, by the way, is Mr. Lance Armstrong himself, right at the front end of the main field.
Well, this little split is getting away from the front of the main field, and Lance Armstrong is paying attention. That's a good sign. He's feeling confident. And Team Columbia High Road here and the Astana team are driving. Lance himself, alongside him coming up is Michael Rogers. The first time we've seen Lance ride in anger since '05.
Well, you know, that's an indication, Phil, that the man has got great form. He hasn't gone out and ripped this race apart for the moment, but I think today he's actually testing his legs for the first time. But to me, the most dangerous rider in that group is Mickey Rogers.
This is the first real move in 2 days of racing, and that will send alarm bells ringing back in that field. And as you can see now, riders scrabbling here to try and nullify this breakaway. Totally hurting the four leaders, and there's another attack here going now by Uni SA. Everybody trying to break this race up.
Well, we were expecting a very tough finish around here, Phil, and once again there's another group going off the front end of the main field. You can see the slight gap there, and again it looks like the shape of Lance Armstrong trying to get himself into this move.
Well, somebody has really put the hammer down here, because they felt this circuit of the Adelaide Hills at the end, the 320 kilometre circuits, would decide the day. But I have to say, Paul, that bunch is very tenacious. They're swinging off the hills again to start the climb up towards the finish.
Very dangerous corner here, everybody getting themselves around safely. It looks as if we're starting to regroup at the front end of the main field, but there will be one or two riders at the back of that group gasping for breath on this very difficult day.
Well, the peloton, amazingly, is coming towards the end of the day, totally regrouped, and I think you'd have got great odds on that happening today. Team Columbia have tried to control it. They've got the leader in the ochre jersey, and he's gone around that corner. I think it was him in third place. Greipel is in with a chance here.
Well, I was expecting Greipel to be put into difficulty here this afternoon, but I tell you what, it's an indication that he too, Phil, is a man who's come to the Tour Down Under with great form.
This is Stirling, where the race is finishing today and providing us with a great long climb of some 8 kilometres up to the finishing line. Not everyone, it seems, is watching the Tour Down Under, but when you look at these pictures, they really are.
Another move coming off here, one of the older statesmen of the sport of professional cycling in third position there, getting into the breakaway, Daniele Nardello. Tom Stubber is the rider in there from Lotto, and he's the rider in the red and black jersey, and I can't quite make a note of who's stuck in the middle.
I'll tell you what, the way this race is reacting here, Paul, they're not afraid of this hill at all. The weather has warmed up nicely, and so too the wind has drifted a little bit higher than it was at the start this morning, but the field are chasing everything down.
Another rider from Garmin was in a different jersey. In fact, it was the Canadian national champion. It was Christian Meyer who's got into that group. And again, they're getting more reinforcements coming up. But every time there's a small group forms at the front end of the main field, Phil, the main field drags them back.
Well, Meyer on his second visit here, and comes from Vancouver, where he left an awful lot of snow and some very minus temperatures. So he's warmed very quickly to the Australian heat. There's the long line, just for the moment tipping downhill slightly, but this is really a long climb as they go around the circuit. Very good finishing circuit, never used before in the 11 years of this race, but it isn't breaking the field, and I'm absolutely astounded by this. One man clear at the moment.
Well, K. Stepanian, that'll be the riders from Spain, but again, the work at the front end of the main field is still Team Columbia High Road. Again, looks like Mickey Rogers all over the front end of the main field. George Hincapie isn't too far away either, but now there is some strain on the front end of the peloton, Phil. The gaps are starting to appear.
Well, that's Rojas in the black on the far right, who won the Best Young Rider competition last year, but this is Alan Davis, and he's gone very, very early, and it's caused a late reaction from the field. They're all looking at each other. Alan Davis here, the only man in the field to have ridden all 11 tours, is now clear, and they're not going to get him. Graham Brown looks over his shoulder. Good ride by Graham, but he's still behind Alan Davis. Davis gets the victory. That really was a superb piece of riding. I take my hat off to Graham Brown, because this wasn't supposed to be a sprinter's finish. So as we look here in slow motion, Rojas over to the right. He recovered from that early attack. No one was expecting Davis to go at 225 metres from the line. It's uphill all of the way. And as they come up to the line, Alan Davis gets what is in history his 4th stage win and salutes the crowd. Well, Davis is the champion and the new leader, and soon after he crossed the line, he met up with our Paul Sherwin.
Well, Alan, you've had a lot of victories in your career, but that was a pretty tough one.
If not the toughest. I had a look around, about 200 to go, and had a bit of a gap. I wasn't planning to go that early, so I just put the head down and went. I just went to the line, and hopefully I hung on, and I'm just glad to get the win, and I'd like to thank all my teammates, because we've done a good job today, and hopefully we keep going in this direction for the rest of the week.
Well, there's the result. Alan Davis finishing in the same time as Graham Brown. I think he had a second or so's gap there myself. Elmiger, former winner of this race, 3rd at 2 seconds. Alan Davis saluting the crowd here. It's his 4th historic stage win in a Tour Down Under, but it's the first time he's ever pulled on the ochre jersey as leader. He holds that by 3 seconds over Andre Greipel. He goes down to 2nd. Graham Brown is up to 3rd. O'Grady's still very much in the mix in 4th place. Well, that's about it for today's stage. Join us again for all of the action tomorrow. Coverage will begin at 4 p.m. Eastern, only on Versus. For a full schedule, log on to our website at versus.com. For Paul Sherwin, I'm Phil Liggett saying so long for now, and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.